G'day, my name's Gordon Dedman and welcome to another episode of Bushcraft Survival. Today we're in one of my favourite places on the mid-north coast of New South Wales near the town of Nambucca Heads. I've parked the troopy about 500 metres away. I've come for a walk through into the bush and we're going to practice this camp for the night, going to do a bit of fishing, practice a little bit of bushcraft, do some cooking, just going to have a nice relaxing time. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let's get on with it. Well, as always, the first thing I do is when I get into an area that I want to stay for the night, I look around, we take care of shelter first, I look up, I look down, I look all around to make sure that I'm putting my shelter up in a safe place. I've got no deadfall here that can fall on me, I'm not on any game trails, I've got a nice piece of flat ground. I'm going to sleep on the ground tonight. I actually prefer to sleep on the ground. I get a better night's sleep than I do on the ground than I do in a hammock. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to set up a hoochie and this is going to be my place tonight. It'll be very, very comfortable and we'll get a fire going over in this area a little bit later on. So we'll crack in, get the hoochie up, then we can get a line in to do some fishing. As always, I always keep my shelter on the outside of my pack or the top of my pack so I can get it out because it's the first thing that goes up. That way if it's raining, I've got something to keep me dry. So we're going to stick this up first and then we can get the rest of our sleeping arrangements sorted. I've set the hoochie up a little lower this time because we've got some weather coming in, so by making the profile a little bit lower it sort of stops any breeze coming in or reduces it and sort of gives you a bit more waterproofing. The higher you have it, obviously you can get a breeze and rain coming in from the side. I'm just getting some of my gear out, not all of it. I've just got the sleeping mat out, the sleeping bag, which in this instance is a Snug Pack Merlin 3 softie, and I've got a Snug Pack bivvy bag, and I've got a Australian Army ground sheet, and that's all I need really, and I can just use my pack as a pillow. So I'm just going to get those out and set them up here on the ground. These ground sheets, Army ground sheets, are absolutely tremendous, really work well, and they double as a stretcher as well, so I use them for that quite frequently when I'm tour guiding in Kakadu, and I've had to use them. And you just have to cut down a couple of saplings and put them through the corners and you've got a makeshift stretcher. Very light and it acts as a ground sheet as well. Got as many of the sticks out as I can. Now I could use a closed cell mattress for sleeping, doesn't really matter. Feel like a bit of comfort tonight, so I'll use a blow up Thermarest. Had this one for years, but other than that, happy just sleeping on the ground, depends where you are. But of course, the colder the environment, you need that insulation, otherwise you lose your heat through conduction to the cold ground. So depending where you are, insulation is very important. So this is the Snug Pack Softy Elite. I've had this for a number of years, rated down to about 5 degrees Celsius. That's great, and obviously the colder you go, they become a little bit larger, and the rating is a bit higher for lower temperatures. So this is, I use this quite a bit, but I'm going to stick it inside the bivvy bag. The bivvy bag is just simply a waterproof outer, which stops the sleeping bag from getting wet. It also gives you an extra layer of warm air, and it creates an air pocket inside. So it keeps you dry and creates that extra layer. Now, because this is cocoon shaped, this bivvy, I'm not going to put my sleeping mat inside the bivvy. That's what I'd normally do, but because this is cocoon shaped, it won't fit that well. So I'm happy just to sleep under it, but usually the sleeping mat goes inside the bivvy and then the sleeping bag on top. But in this instance, I'm not going to do that. I generally prefer more conventional shaped sleeping bags, ones that aren't narrow at the bottom, but there's specific reasons why they're made that way. So I've put my sleeping bag inside the bivvy. As I said, I usually prefer my sleeping mat inside the bivvy as well, but because it's not cocoon shape, it's not round, this tends to not fit in these Snug Pack ones so well. So in this instance, it's on the outside. Put everything away, and I've folded it over. I don't want anything crawling in here before I get in, and it's ready for mine just to come in and get into bed when I need to. So it's all waterproofed, all ready to go, and now we can go and throw a line in and see if we can get some fish for dinner. Well, I've changed my mind. We've got some weather coming here, so I decided to get the fire lay going so we can get a fire happening really quick before it gets too wet. So I'm going to have to put fishing off. Got my fire lay going as usual, so I'm just going to quickly go around and see what tinder I can find. I was going to do it by friction, but we haven't got time now, so I'm going to use my ferro rod and probably get some Lemandra longifolia, quickly buff that up into tinder, and we'll get this fire going. Well, here's the Lemandra longifolia. You've seen me do this in another episode. I've just been collecting the dead stuff. It is a little bit of damp. I should have put it in my pockets earlier on, but I've been racing against time getting everything set up. That weather came in from nowhere. So I've just trying to collect the dead stuff now. As we were shown in another episode, I'm just going to buff that up. And I want it like cotton wool. It is a little bit damp. So I'm going to have to work to get this to, you can feel that there. It's going to be hard to get a spark into that. It's an instance when char cloth would be better. Yes, it's a little bit damp, so it's not going to take a spark as readily. We'll give it a shot anyway. Trying to get it nice and fine. Look, very fibrous, that's what we're trying to get. Lots of surface area. A couple of green bits in there, don't want those. Okay, here we are. We're working against the weather, and the battery's about to go on my camera there, so let's hope I get this lit before it goes out. So I've got my Mora Garbird, got the stainless version because I'm in an aquatic environment, marine environment. I like to generally have stainless steel in a marine environment. And I've got my ferro rod, which I keep in a lanyard in my pocket. This is a little damp. Okay, I decided to move the fire just because we've got some tree cover over the top which sort of disperses the rain a little bit, and it just gets the fire a little bit closer to camp, but mainly I can actually set the camera up and film it. So I've got our usual fire platform down, parallel sticks. The colder and the wetter the weather, the more important that is. Usual layers of kindling and fuel in various forms, from matchstick size up to thicker sizes. I've got some Mandra longifolia in my pocket, which are buffed up and trying to keep it dry. Well, Murphy's Law struck again. I got the fire going, did a whole scene, and the battery had died and I didn't realise. So we're going to have to go and revisit that tomorrow. Bit annoying, but that's just the way it is when you're dealing with technology. Unfortunately, me and technology don't always go together. But we've got a fire going now, and I can cook, I can boil water, and now we're going to have a look at going in and getting a line in so we can get some fish for dinner. We're going to go down and have a fish. I've put a few extra bits of wood on the fire, larger than I normally would. I actually like small fires, and the only time you need a large fire is when you need to keep yourself warm in cold conditions. Most people have fires that are way too big, but I've put a few extra big ones on in this instance because it is a bit wet and I'm going down for a fish. There is no chance of any of this catching because everything's wet, and it's basically everything's very compressed. So I'm just going to do that to build an ember base, and even if it does rain a bit, I've got a bit of cover over the fire. So I'm thinking ahead so I can go and have a fish and not have to worry about this. So let's go and get a line in. Well, we're down at the water's edge and it's raining. So just to give you a quick look at my fishing kit. It's actually only 4 o'clock and I can't believe it's actually quite dark, which is it shouldn't be dark for another hour and a half, but with quite a bit of cloud cover. This is my fishing kit. I've got a collapsible fishing rod in here and reel, and my kit that I sort of take around all over the place with me is my little mini hand reel set. And in here I've got a little hand line, and I've actually been all around the world, and I've got a couple of little boxes of lures and things like that. I also have a little head net, sort of mosquito head net, but that also doubles as a little fishing net, so when I want to catch minnow and small fish I can. So they work really well as bait fish. So in here I've just got some extra line, 20-pound line. I always keep a pair of toenail cutters on a piece of string. They actually work really well for fishing line, and a little mini Victorinox pocket knife. I'm going to get this hand line in the water. Now I've collected some bait, so I'm just going to get that in and we'll go through that tomorrow. Just want to sort of get a line in first so we can hopefully get something to eat. And I've got some lures. Generally I find lures don't work as well when it's dark like this, because the light's not as good. But anyway, I'm going to put some bait on this and we'll get a line in, and then we can catch up to ourselves. Well, I've just put a new hook on this hand reel. The sinkers are a little bit light, but we'll just get this in the water and I'll change them later when I get a little bit more time, maybe when I'm around the fire tonight. I'll put the knife away. In marine environments, really prefer a stainless steel knife for obvious reasons. It doesn't rust. And I got a bit of frozen mullet from the last time I went fishing, which I had in the freezer, so I just got some of that out to get me started, and tomorrow we'll go and look for some bait and sort of collect some bait. But just to let's get some of this in the freezer, just get a little bit, and if we catch some small fish we can cut those up and use those for bait as well. So I'm just going to cut this up and put this on the line. I find the mullet really stays on the line a lot better and a lot longer. because I'll leave this as a set line and come back a little later after we have another fish with the or actively fish with the other line, and hopefully we'll have something on the end of it. Usually the mullet does pretty well. Don't always have to actively man the line. And that should do me. Leave a tail, make that look appetising. I can stand here and actively fish if I like, but I'm just going to leave this as a set line, and then I'll get a few other lines and then we'll actively fish. So I'm going to tie this off and get another line out as well. Hopefully that light's not too bad. But this is the portable fishing kit. I've had this for a number of years. I got this in Europe, and it's just a telescopic Shimano rod. Now, as I said, I generally use hand lines most of the time, but if I want to do a bit of rod fishing, I'll have a telescopic rod like this. And this has sort of been, I've done a bit of fishing in Alaska with this, and it's yeah, it's a nice bit of kit, and it's easy to take no matter where you go. I just remembered I broke the end off this a while ago. It's been a while since I've used it. Lining up the eye. So I'm just going to put this together, and then we will we'll throw a lure on this. And we've got bait on the other ones, the set lines. We've got some bait. It's just a Shimano reel. I couldn't tell you which one it is. It's the 750 FI, whatever that is. I'm not a huge fisherman, and like all the different topics in bushcraft, there are so many. You can't be a master at all of them, or an expert. I don't like the word expert at all. An enthusiast, you know, you never stop learning. So anyone that says they're an expert, generally I think they stop learning once they attribute that title to themselves. So I like to think of myself as an eternal student at everything, because you never ever stop learning. So I'm going to go ahead and put this together, and hopefully we might have a fish on the line, on the other lines in the meantime. Well, check the line. We've got a fish on this line already. So we'll reel in and see what we got. And there we go, got a nice bream. So we're going to cook this fella up tonight and have a nice dinner. That's not bad. One cast, one fish. So I'm just going to leave him in there just for a bit, and we'll go and check the other line. So nice bream. We've come back down to the water, and we've got another fish on the other line. So we now got two fish. So I'm going to get both of these fish in, and we'll clean them up and we'll go and cook them on the fire. we've got. It's a beautiful size bream, look at that. So we're going to take this guy up and we're going to have a nice feed of fish for dinner. Well, here are the two fish we've got. I'm actually going to let one go because I only need to eat that. I don't need to keep him, and he'll go for another day. And that's more than enough for me tonight. So it's just greedy to keep the two. So I'm going to keep this guy very quickly, and I'm going to let this other guy go. Okay, to dispatch this fella, I couldn't find a strong enough bit of board to give him a clump over the back of the head, so I'm actually just going to put a knife straight down through the back of his skull, his brain, right there to where I'd hit if I was, that's me one. Very clean kill, very quick. So I'm going to go and gut this guy. Now when I gut it, I don't need to scale him because I'm just going to put him over a stick on the fire. Had some paper bark, I'd wrap him in paper bark, and tomorrow if we get another fish we might cook him in the hot coals. But we'll do that in the daytime when we can see it a little bit better. So I'm going to gut him, and then I'll leave the scales on, and then I'll stick him on a stick because the scales will actually stop him burning. So we'll get onto that. We can either keep this as bait for tomorrow, or I like to give back to the environment what I take out. So always there's other animals that can sort of feed on this guy, so it's always good to give back and not waste. Of course, if we were trapping, we would keep this, we wouldn't throw this away. Make sure he's all cleaned out. What we've got here is some New Zealand spinach or warrigal greens, Tetragonia tetragoides, and this is a great wild edible. In fact, Captain Cook used to use this quite readily when he first came out here, and they used to use it to help prevent scurvy. So we're going to pick some of these small leaves and we're going to blanch them. It is quite high in oxalic acids if you eat too much of it, but it tastes very nice, and this is going to get added a vegetable content to our fish tonight. So this is a great score. So we've got some veggies and some fish. Okay, we've got some nice cooking coals for our fish. And what I've done, I've got a green stick. I've got a green stick, I've sharpened at one end, and we're going to stick it through the fish, and we're going to roast him over the fire. We could have stuck him in the hot coals, but it's easier to do at night time and just trying to get something that's nice and easy, nice and quick. He's a little bit big on the big side to do this with, but we'll give it a shot. So I'm going to put the stick through his mouth. I'm going to pass that up through his body. I hope you can see this. I want it to be quite thick in, because as the flesh cooks it becomes weak. So I don't want to move him around too much. There we go. And I'm going to stick him in. I've got a wedge here, and that's probably more than enough to cook him. And we'll let him slowly cook there, probably for 20 minutes. The secret is to let it take longer. Don't be in a rush to cook too fast. In fact, I'm going to take some of these away, get some of this heat off, and just use those ashes, or coals I should say. And that's a nice heat. My brew kit. and I love a cup of tea when I'm out in the bush. Tonight we're having a Yorkshire tea. Harrogates of Yorkshire, it's a nice black tea. Leave it in there for a bit. And with that, I'm going to add some powdered milk. And a little bit of honey. A little bit too much there. But I'm going to give them a stir first. Take the tea bag out. Stick it in the fire there. Stir in that powdered milk. Need to stir quite vigorously because it won't mix otherwise. And just a dash of honey. Get a nice bush cuppa. And I'll enjoy this while we're waiting for our fish to cook. Cheers. Beauty. Okay, this fish is about done now, so we're going to take him off the stick and put him on this little tray. It's a good little tray, Alton Goods, nice little light titanium cooking rack, very, very portable, and it just really comes in handy for all sorts of things. Really, really like it. I've only got this recently and I really, really like it. Great piece of kit. Remember, bushcraft isn't about equipment. Bushcraft's all about not having equipment and using your knowledge, but there are some essential pieces, and this is something that's really light and easy to carry. So yeah, this gets a thumbs up definitely. So I'm going to take this off, I'm going to put our fish down on our rack, and then we're going to take our warrigal greens over to our log and we're going to sit and enjoy these. Oh, he looks great. Absolutely tremendous. So we'll move the camera and we'll go over and have a bit of a feed. Bon appetit. This looks delicious. And it tastes delicious. Beautiful. Got some warrigal greens here as well, which are blanched. Put those in there as well. Some vegetable content. Really good. And it doesn't get any fresher than that. Well, that was absolutely delicious. It was cooked really well. I gave it a little bit longer. In cooking that way, you have to give it a little bit longer. The biggest mistake is rushing it. But that's another nice way to cook. It does take longer. It's not as quick as when you're cooking in the coals, but we might do that tomorrow if we get another fish in the morning. Absolutely beautiful. Well, I'm going to clean up now and we're going to get ready for bed. Morning. Well, had a good night's sleep. Got a bit chilly last night actually. There was a bit of rain.
It's nice and dry under the hoochie. But yeah, great night's sleep. Had a great feed of fish, and yeah, that was really, really good. So we're now going to get up and we're going to go down, put another line in, get the fire going again, because as we can see, the fire's gone out, and we'll get stuck into the morning routine.
Well, late in the day yesterday when I got the fire going, the battery died, so we missed out on me actually getting the fire going in the rain. It's a bit of a rush because I was trying to get it all happening before the rain came down, but such is life. That's what happens with technology. So what I did, I thought I'd give you a quick recap of what I did. I got some leptospermum bark from, there's lots of little tea trees around. I buffed that up. Now this morning everything's wet, so I had to go around and collect this because everything's pretty wet. Now if your preparation's good, you'd have dry tinder and wood, and you'd put that under your shelter with you. But I actually wanted to demonstrate, if you don't do that, there is dry tinder you can find under bark everywhere, so there's lots of that. The other thing I did yesterday was I got some of these dead grass tree stems, the Xanthoria. Now they're not the usual grass tree with the stump on top and the nice big thick stem that goes above the ground. They're just thin stems and the trunk goes below the ground. It's the Xanthoria vulva is the species, and they're very common around this area. They're good for hand drills, but that's it. They're a bit too thin for bow drill. So what I'm using is the back of my knife, and I'm just scraping off loads and loads of those really fine fibres into the fire, into the my tinder bundle. And you can see that comes off very, very fine. And that's one of the reasons it's really good to have a 90-degree spine on your knife. And this is the Mora Garberg, and a lot of the Moras have a very good sharp 90-degree spine. You don't want serrations and saws on the back of the knife. They render the knife useless for so many other tasks. A lot of people have that sort of thing on their knife for a survival knife. The only good thing serrations are good for is cutting rope. But they're difficult to sharpen in the field. Unless you're cutting rope all the time, I don't see the point in having them. Better off to have a 90-degree spine where you can use it with a ferro rod, you can use it to strip bark, and so many other things. The same goes with a saw on the back of a knife. Most of them are pretty much useless because they only cut down to the depth of the teeth, unless they're made properly, but you're better off just having a straight back, plain and simple, and then that knife can be used for many, many other purposes. I should have compressed my kindling a little bit more then. It's untidy. Another bream. He's going to make a good breakfast. Water to keep him fit. He's been on the wild. This was an overnight set line, so he's gone, but he's still fresh. Probably happened this morning when we had the change of the tide. The tide's just going out, and yeah, he's going to make a great brekkie. Well, no sooner have we got a cast on the rod that I've had a bite on here already. So I've already got a fish. It's probably another bream. Yeah, it's a small fella. Yep, another bream. It's a bit small, this fella. Throw that back out. These dromedary bags are really good. You can hold up, they come in 4, 6 and 10 litre sizes, and once they're empty they fold flat and you store them in your bag. Very portable, excellent pieces of kit. Because where we are now there's no fresh water, so I've had to bring this water in. Time for some breakfast. Some muesli. A little bit of powdered milk. Give it a swish around. It's great when you bring powdered milk, you don't have to bring anything cold. Nice and simple, nice and easy. Good for tea, coffee. And add a bit of water to that. And maybe just a touch of honey. Okay, we're ready to cook our fish. So in order to do that, we're not going to gut him, we're not going to scale him, we're just going to stick him straight in the hot ash and in the hot sand. And by not gutting him and not scaling him, what happens, that fish is then going to cook in its own seal. The scales will prevent the fish from burning, and the guts will just simply shrivel into a ball. So all we need to do, we'll get rid of our pot stand, move those to the side if you want to use them afterwards. I'm just going to dig a hole. I've got a bit of a bark shovel that I've just whipped up. Should have my gloves on for this, to be honest. And I'm just going to put the fish straight in the centre like that. Simple as that. Cover him completely with hot ash. We want to exclude all the oxygen, because if you exclude the oxygen, it won't burn. Same when you're using paper bark. And we're going to leave him in there for about 20 minutes. And he'll steam and cook beautifully. Well, it's been about 30 minutes and we're going to dig our fish up. So I'm going to gently scrape the coals off the top. It's probably best just to come straight underneath it. Very easy to break, bear in mind there's lots of sand, so I don't want to split him open. There he is. I might use this one actually. Smells really good. Problem about sand is it gets into absolutely everything, so you've got to be very careful in doing this. Okay, we're just going to eat him from that. Doesn't matter if it's a bit of sand, we're going to stay away from the sand if we can. Going to very carefully peel back the skin, hopefully try and minimise the sand. And look at that. So a bit of sand there, a bit of, as I said, sand gets into everything. When you wrap it in paper bark, this doesn't happen, but in normal hot coals, if you're not in sandy environment, this is fine. It's just the fish breaks apart when you go to pull it out. So we can stay away from that bit, and the rest should be fine. Give you a look at that. Yummo, that looks absolutely tremendous. You're not going to win any awards in a restaurant for that, but I'll tell you what, does it taste good. Beautifully steamed in its own juices. The proof is in the tasting. It is so simple, doesn't require any work, any washing up. As I said, if it was in coals, you wouldn't have to worry about the sand, but there's still plenty of feed to get the fish there. I'm just going to stay away from the stomach, and the rest of the meat should be fine. Really nice. these collapsible water buckets or collapsible water containers are absolutely excellent. You can wash up, you can rinse, you can do everything in them. You can put salt water in them or fresh water. They fold up to nothing and go in your pack. So they're really a great way of being able to look after your hygiene in the bush. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you like these videos, please like, subscribe and share them with other people so as to make the channel more visible and to help rekindle bushcraft in Australia. If you'd like to do one of our courses, please visit www.bushcraftsurvivalaustralia.com.au. My name's Gordon Dedman and I look forward to seeing you again on the next episode.